Here at Heart of Glass, the podcast, it's our responsibility to make this the safest listening and viewing experience possible for everyone. So keeping that in mind, today's episode does mention gun violence. So we've put the minute markers in the description below so that if that's something you're sensitive to, you can just skip forward. Thank you for tuning in today, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Heart of Glass, the podcast, the show that takes a deeper, more in-depth look at the awesome humans who make up the heartbeat of the Glass City. My name is Ashley Cohn, and I'm your host, and we are in the final countdown of season 1. This is the first of our last 3 episodes, and we're so excited. Don't worry, because in the off-season, we still have plans for things to come. So we'll definitely have a lot of announcements coming up. You might have noticed we're not in our normal recording space. Normally we are at Toledo Spirits Recording, and they've been an amazing sponsor for us. We're so deeply appreciative to them. But for today, we decided to take it right to the home court of our guest. So we are at the headquarters of Book That DJ, and we are very, very thankful to our guest for today for opening up their space to us. Today's guest is first and foremost a devoted husband and proud father. A United States Marine Corps veteran, he served in Iraq for 6 months back in 2003. He is also a former rapper and has shared the stage with several national artists. On top of all of that, he is the owner of Book That DJ, a local DJ service company, and First Class Transit, an airport transportation service. The author of 2 wedding planning tips books and a supporter of local talent. Everything he does is in service of creativity. I can't wait to have a conversation with this very kind, very thoughtful guy, and have already been enjoying talking to him before we got started. So Glass City humans, I give you Mr. Jason Kelley.
Oh, thanks.
Jason, thank you so much for having us here in your awesome space.
Absolutely.
This is amazing.
It's a vibe.
It really is a vibe. And I have to tell you, I told you this already, but I was so glad that you reached out, and you actually really impressed me because you didn't just reach out and show interest in being on the podcast, but you invited me to come check out the space. And then the kicker was that you offered espresso. So the fact that you offer, I mean,
key to someone's heart.
I won't say that that's what sold you being on the podcast, but it may have had slight influence.
Yeah, well, I didn't want it to seem like I was like, hey, promote me too. Right. Because...
Well, no, I appreciate you. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you because, like we were talking before we got started, you were very interested in doing this largely in part for one of the huge reasons that we started this in the first place.
Yeah.
Is you've been in the entertainment scene in Toledo for years and years.
Time,
yes. Yeah. And when you are in a specific industry, people get a certain mindset about you. And I know you're excited to do this to help lots of people get a more well-rounded look at who you are. Yeah. And we're excited that you want to do that with us because that's exactly why we wanted to do this.
Which is why I reached out to you. Like I said, when I initially reached out, like I love that you're doing this to show people who people are.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew everybody that I've watched them all, as I told you. I knew everybody that you interviewed, but I didn't know them. I didn't know what they were about. And so watching them made me kind of like love them even more.
That makes me really happy to hear because that's definitely what we wanted to do starting this. And you're our first diehard fan that's on as a guest.
Really?
So that makes me
right on.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that you reached out. Are you ready to do this?
Ready
to get into it?
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
All right, let's do this. So you were born in a small town in Northeast Ohio called Ashtabula, and I have actually heard of it because a friend of mine, my freshman year of college, was from Ashtabula.
No way.
I did look up the population and saw it's definitely not very big.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Yeah, so small town. What was it like growing up there for you?
Well, I was born in Ashtabula County, and then there's multiple little, just like Lucas County and Wood County and all that, but I spent my time in Ashtabula and Conneaut, which is an even smaller town comparative to Ashtabula, and so it just, everybody knew everybody who was anybody, and even if you didn't know them, you knew them anyway. I don't know what that means, but it just came out.
It's like a small town vibe.
Yeah, a small town vibe, but it's I don't know, man. It wasn't for me. I couldn't do it. You know, in Conneaut there was one McDonald's, and the Burger King was like 3 miles away, so we couldn't like bike there, walk there, whatever. It was just, I don't know, man. Wasn't my vibe.
I can understand that purely from the industry that you're in a town of that size, that small. It's really hard to really do a lot in the entertainment industry when you're in a city that is that small. Or I feel like city is sometimes generous when you have a population that size, and more of a town. That's hard to really get traction.
Yeah, I mean, I got out of there at 17 when I graduated high school.
Okay.
And I was just gone. I didn't look back.
That I can completely understand that. So you have one sibling, an older brother named Denham. And I loved it because when you wrote out your story for us, you said, yes, Denham.
Yes, Denham.
So your name is actually super boring in comparison to that. You're so welcome.
People used to tell me that my mom should have named me Corduroy. Because I have a brother Denham and Uncle Gene, and I had a cousin Levi.
Wow. You guys were trying to have a whole monopoly on the jean industry, apparently.
Jackets, Canadian tuxedos on lock.
That's right. Did you and your brother get along well, and are you guys still close today?
We're really close. I mean, of course, any siblings fight and bicker and whatever, but no, he's my brother.
Definitely. So you said that when you were 4, your parents got divorced, and that you were seeing your dad on weekends and holidays and in the summer. Were you close to him? I know 4 is very young. Was that difficult for you when that all went down?
I don't have a lot of memories really of that time frame. I mean, few of them are pretty vivid of him and my mom, arguing and whatnot. But yeah, I remember the day that they separated, and then bits and pieces from there until I started hitting like my more formative years and stuff. And so yeah, we would go see him on the weekends or a couple weeks during the summer and stuff like that. And when my mom and dad split up, she moved to Conneaut, and my dad stayed in Ashtabula. And so it was only like, it's from like Rossford to Perrysburg away.
So not a very, very big distance at all.
Not a big distance. So it would be easy for us to go see him or him to come and see us.
That's good.
But we would only go see him on weekends or every other weekend or what have you. And so I loved it there.
Did you?
Yeah, because it was Dad, and he let us be boys.
Sure.
For lack of a better way to explain it.
Did it kind of feel like you were kind of on vacation a little bit when you were with him?
100%.
So to let all of our listeners and viewers in on the joke, before we got started with the interview, we were talking about Jason's shirt, and he was giving us the story of how he made it, and then we were talking about some other movie references and referencing someone that says 100%.
It's the new BJ Novak movie.
Yes.
Go watch it if you haven't seen it. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go watch it.
100%.
I'm not giving away any plot points. Just it's a good movie. 100%.
So you shared, looking forward to when you were 12. I appreciated you sharing this and being so open about it. Yeah. You shared that when you were 12, your dad was shot and killed. I am so incredibly sorry that you lost him at such a young age in such a traumatic way. How did you deal with that? I know that that's probably a tough question to answer, but how did you deal with that when that happened?
I shut myself off from everybody. I mean, even many, many years later, my brother said, I wish you would have came to me and talked to me, but I just kind of like went into my own little world.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know, it was my dad,
Just not being able to make sense of it.
Yeah, I'm 12.
Yeah.
And I was a very underdeveloped 12 mentally.
Okay.
Smart, but as far as sense of awareness and things like that and social, I wasn't the awesome dude I am now.
I get that.
But yeah, I've made my peace. It's been a long time. I mean, I was 12, but it was tough, man. It was tough.
I get that. Purely looking at the age that you were at, I mean, how does anyone ever make sense of something like that? But considering how young you were, that makes sense to me that you would have that reaction to it to shut down, because how do you make sense of it and then to try and verbalize it and everything? That seems like a very normal reaction to going through something like that.
Yeah, he was 34. And
okay, so he was young then, yeah.
And I'm like spitting image of my father.
Are you?
And everybody in my family like knows it. And so, you know, I say all the time, if I need to see him, I just look in the mirror, you know. And so that I talk to him there. I always have, you know, since then. But you know, it just sucks, and it still sucks to this day, because if one person could understand me,
that would
it would
be
have been him. And I feel like, and I think that's why I shut down. And I feel like nobody understands me.
I can understand that. What a huge loss from the standpoint that one, it's your father, but then for your dad to be the one that you felt like knew you the best, understood you the best. When you lose that person, that's devastating.
Yeah, you know, especially like I said, formative years. Like I'm coming into really understanding the world. Like I have a daughter now that just turned 13, and so, you know, there's a lot to unpack here, to be honest with
absolutely.
you. And you know, I've thought my entire life, what if something happens to me and she has to go through that? So now she just made it past 12. So I've always thought, well, even while she was 12, like, excuse me, you said
nope, you're good. You're good.
You said I could cuss.
Yeah, you're good. You're good, buddy.
You know, what if something happens to me? You know, and so I didn't even tell you this. Like I told you, I thought of things after I said everything to you.
Yeah, please share.
You know, when I first found out my daughter was coming into this world, I started writing in notebooks for her. And I still do to this day. She won't watch this, so that's fine, but I plan on giving them to her at her 16th birthday.
What an
and I call them
gift.
Letters to Micaiah. And I started doing it because I've always had that kind of sense of, what if something happens to me? Because me being so similar to my father, that I kind of correlated the two, and always had this like shadowing, or the shadow following me, that something's gonna happen to me.
Like you somehow expected yourself to have the same life trajectory as him.
Exactly.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
History repeats itself, all of that kind of stuff. And so
Sure.
I wanted her to know who I am, wanted to give her the advice I could give her as much as I could, just in case.
What an incredible gift. I mean, I can think of so many people who when they've lost their parent wish that they had something like that. So that's an incredible, no matter when your time ends on this planet, I think that's an incredible gift to give to her, because it's going to give her insight into you that she wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, considering that, like you said, she just turned 13. When she turned 12, did you struggle with that?
Emotionally?
Yeah. Just knowing, like you said, that's the age. I could see that almost being a little bit triggering, and knowing that you're kind of staring at a younger version of yourself to a certain extent at that age.
She's just like me too. It's crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, it definitely, was a lingering thought.
I bet.
Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't dwell on it as much anymore. Because the biggest lingering thought was making it to 34 myself. And past that.
I can understand
Maybe it was
that.
36. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was 34.
Okay, see, that would make sense to me, though, especially thinking about the fact that you're seeing your life kind of mirror his.
Yeah.
Thinking about that.
Yeah.
So looking at the positive aspects of your life in general, because I can tell that you've turned out to be an incredible human being. Yeah, absolutely. I know that that is going to be proven in my head as we go, just in the little bit of time that we've gotten to speak and what I know of you already. Looking at what you went through with that, how has that impacted the man that you know that you are today?
Well, I'll say this. In my teenage years, it took me to a darker side, which is a good part of the reason why I joined the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Because I knew I had something better in me than where I was going. And so I always say to people, the Marine Corps turned me back into the man I was supposed to be. And I've always done everything to make him proud. And so that's kind of when I started taking that trajectory into the path where I knew I was supposed to follow.
I've heard a lot of people. We had one of our other guests from this season, Angel Tipping. She was in the earlier part of the season. Yeah.
Hoorah.
Yeah, she's a Marine. And what I've noticed about the people that I've spoken to specifically who have joined the Marines is that they've been looking to it as something to help them define what their life's path is, to also help them in general just to grow up more. And what I've seen from everyone that I've talked to that has been in that situation is they feel like they've accomplished that. They've left their time there feeling like they, gained a lot of life skills that they may have not had before, but their discipline is solid, and their work ethic and their even self-esteem, just in self-concept and how you view yourself.
Yeah, it adds a whole new sense of, I guess, reality.
I could totally see that. So you said you joined the Marines after you graduated in '99.
Well, I took the summer to just be a
smart guy, just to relax and enjoy being a kid. That's good. Yeah,
and it was a fun summer.
That's awesome.
The summer of '99, which is a great. It was a great year.
So then you spent 4 years in the Marines, and you said in 2003 you spent 6 months in Iraq.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine, coupled with the rest of your time in the Marines, was a very eye-opening experience.
Yeah. It was insane.
I bet.
When I was in what they call a grunt, I was in a ground Marine. I was in the air wing.
Okay.
And so we were on aircraft carriers the entire time. I was what they call a POG. I was a brain guy. I was admin. So I was a system administrator, data analyst for a Harrier squadron in the Marine Corps, and we were there. I don't want to say too much, but we were there. And we got, even on the ships though, we got Scud attacks. It was there, but I didn't see face-to-face combat. So I like to say that to let people know that, like, out of respect for my fellow brothers and sisters that have.
You like to make that clarification.
I like to make that, clear that, like, I was there, yes, and I am a Marine, and those are my brothers and sisters, but there are many that have gone through way worse than I have. And especially, a good friend of mine that I went to high school with was a sniper, and so out of respect to the Corps, I like to clarify that I wasn't like in combat, but I was in combat zone.
Sure. I get wanting to make the distinction. That makes sense. At the same time, though, your service was just as valid, even if you may have not been in that specific part of it.
Right, yeah.
What do you feel like was your biggest takeaway from your time in the Marines? How do you feel like it's positively impacted you as you've gone on in your life from then till now, and also currently? How do you feel like it's
just the core values: honor, courage, commitment.
Do you feel like that extends into everything?
Everything I do, yeah. Because if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Sure. I've got to be courageous enough to do the things that I want to do, and I have to be honorable. I do the right thing even when nobody's looking.
I could see how that would really impact you positively as a small business owner, right?
Yeah.
Because it would be very easy to maybe not be above board with some things, but having a commitment to doing things the right way, to treating people with respect. Myself and Tiernan, we've already experienced that walking in here with you. I told you impressed me from the get-go when you first reached out. I can tell that you are a very honorable, very respectful guy, and very determined, because to have a small business venture become as successful as what you have going on now, it takes a lot of hard work, and dedication.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that it takes a lot. And it's been 12 years now that I've been in business.
Wow.
I haven't worked a regular job. And it's taken me 12 years to get here, Right. I've got a long journey ahead of me still, but it does take a lot, and it takes a lot of mental dexterity and focus and thick skin, because there's not many people in business. I won't say not many people. There's a lot of people in business that don't have the honor and the kindness and the consideration.
That's true. Integrity really stands out.
That's the word I was trying to find while I was rolling through these different, synonyms.
Yes. Well, you very much stand out in that respect. I think small business owners who have a high level of integrity stand out. And I mean, I'm sure you experience this as a customer, as a client yourself. That's a big thing that most people look for in the vendors that they're working with, because that's kind of sets you above the rest.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So after your time in the Marine Corps, you moved to Toledo.
I did.
So what did you think of the Glass City when you first got here in comparison to how you view the Glass City now?
I enjoy it just as much as I did then.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love hearing that.
It's, every place you have your own journey through and experiences with, and every place has different parts, and every person goes through different challenges. But I liked it here. That's why I stayed here.
I love hearing that. What made you decide to land on Toledo in the first place?
After the Marine Corps,
That was pretty good.
It's a Red Bull.
That's pretty good.
Just gonna throw it out there. Sorry.
That's the pitfalls of carbonation.
It is, yeah. So after the Marine Corps, I started working for a check cashing company.
Okay.
And instantly moved from cashier to assistant manager within months, just because of my tenacity and my drive, and I'm a smart dude. And so I get things quickly. Not to, be braggadocious, but that's just...
It's okay to recognize that you're an
100%.
intelligent person. So that's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So they had a location here in Toledo that had a big discrepancy. And they sent myself and another manager here to kind of go through and audit and analyze all the files and all that, and try to find and then also interview and hire new people, because a good portion of the staff were let go. And then, without getting into too much detail of the reasons, but I stayed. I liked it here.
Nice.
And been here ever since.
I'm glad you landed here.
Me too.
I'm very glad you landed here. So just like you said, you were working at a check cashing place. You said after you got here, you worked a variety of jobs.
Yeah.
And you said ultimately in 2009, when your daughter was born, you made the decision to leave the corporate world because you just simply couldn't stand it anymore. Why was that?
It's a lot. Anybody that's worked in sales, customer service, retail, corporation, knows that management, it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of time away from reality. It's a lot of time away from living.
That's true.
And, given with everything that I've shared with you about the history with my father and my family, I feel like that had somewhat of an impact of it, but I couldn't take it anymore. I'm a very don't keep me in a box type of person. I can't be contained. And I'm sorry, my brain went to 6 different directions.
That's
right
okay.
There.
That's
I'm
okay.
trying to keep it.
You're good. You're good. I'm gonna help you with that. So
yeah.
You're good.
Okay,
you're
thanks.
Good. You're welcome.
Yeah. So I just couldn't do the 40, 50 hours and come home and still and then barely see my child, and a newborn is stressful. You're not getting a lot of sleep, and so I was like, you know what? I've got some money saved up. I'm done. And plus, where I was working, they just weren't treating me right anyway. It was very much like work and shut up.
Yeah.
And, and then they would say, we'll give you this, but then we're not giving you this. There was, I don't want to put any company on blast, but it was a thing. And I'm smarter than the average bear. And I didn't like not being treated that way. And there was just a lot of variables. But ultimately, I wanted to live.
God, I love so much of what you said. It makes a lot of sense to me. You're talking about not wanting to be put in a box and not being able to be contained. The corporate world is very tough for a lot of creatives, especially creatives who work in a variety of avenues of creativity. And working in the corporate world, in my opinion, can often be a killer of that. And so for people who are creative like you, same thing with me, same thing with Tiernan, it's really hard when you work in a corporate setting, because a lot of times you sit there thinking, oh my gosh, if I wasn't here, I could be doing this. I have this project that I want to get off the ground, but I'm here instead.
And this is so mind-numbing right now.
Exactly. So especially loving variety, when you're doing the same thing 8 to 10 hours a day, however many days a week, that can feel very soul crushing.
Yeah.
And the fact, you talked about wanting to come on here because you don't like that people put you in a box. And so I can tell you do not like boxes. So that makes sense to me that you would want to run away from the corporate world, because I could see that being very soul crushing for you based on how you've described yourself.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I do is because it's just who I am.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think when that was a great soundbite, by the way.
Well, really?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, because you do it because you love it, and it's because it's who you
it's
are.
Who I am. It's who I am, yeah.
I feel like when you can find your career path and it lines up with who you are, that's where you find real satisfaction.
Yes. Yeah, and gratification.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love my day-to-day.
That's awesome.
And I work hard. Like I said, I didn't like working the 40, 50 hours, but...
Because that's not a laziness thing.
No, not at all.
Right, exactly.
I don't like the 40, 50 hours of just mind-numbing, focusing on things I didn't care for, didn't care about, and I just had to put on a face, be that guy.
Yeah, that definitely takes away your good energy.
Yeah.
So you leave the corporate world, and shortly after, your brother helped you get a job washing dishes at a local pizzeria. You said that you loved it and you felt like it was the best job ever.
Best job ever.
And I feel like most people who have ever worked in a kitchen washing dishes would be baffled that you would say that. So please elaborate.
Okay, so, have you ever worked in a restaurant?
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
So you know the dynamic of cooks.
Yes, I've worked in a kitchen.
Okay,
yes.
so you're familiar with that realm, right?
Yes.
So imagine going from a corporate wearing a tie, sales position, P's and Q's, yes ma'am, thank you, oh I'm sorry, to a kitchen at a restaurant.
It's a polar opposite
where your
atmosphere.
family works and your best friends are there. That was the best job ever. It wasn't so much the washing dishes part.
Sure.
Because, I didn't care. I'm just washing dishes. But it's just the atmosphere. The atmosphere I was in, it was just, I could just be myself. You know what I mean? Like, I was in a little box where the dish tank was, but I was outside of the box now. Mm-hmm. And I just loved it. I used to say, and my brother said this in his best man speech at my wedding, that I used to yell at servers to put square plates on the square plates and round plates on the round plates. I wasn't say stupid, you know what I mean? Like, I was just able to just vent and just be. People loved me. They loved that I was venting, but, I was able to have fun with it.
That makes sense. I know for me, a large part of my job satisfaction, besides looking at the actual job duties, is who I'm working for and who I'm working with. That's a huge thing. That for me can be a make or break thing, and I know that a lot of people are like that. So coming out of the stuffy corporate world into that atmosphere, I'm really glad you gave that context, because that makes sense. If you look, put the actual washing of the dishes aside and then look at the rest of it, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and then I went from dishes to in the kitchen too.
Okay.
So very shortly after that, I went from that to on the line. And I loved that too, just as much, because then I got, my drive kicked in and my discipline kicked in, and you watch them tickets and in that whole, just machine of things working and sweating and, and just listening to good music. But I'm right next to my brother and my best friend. And so it was
that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, it was a blast.
That's awesome.
We were cooking it out. We were in the weeds so many times, but it didn't matter to us because that was the gig.
Very cool.
And then at the end of the day, we knew we were gonna kick some back and make ourselves some food and hang out and live our lives.
That does sound like a breath of fresh air.
It was good.
That's great.
It was a good time.
So let's flash back to your 20s and talk about your time as a rapper.
Okay.
Yes. I have so many questions about this.
Yeah.
So for starters, when
Yeah.
did you first get into rapping?
Oh, I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like the actual, which did you like better, or is it a tie for you? The actual act of rapping or the writing?
The writing.
The writing.
Yes. It
Okay.
was the art form, the wordplay of it. It was my favorite because I'm a writer. I love writing and creating different ways to say things
Sure.
that make them make sense that
Sure.
aren't the same that everybody says. Is that like good?
It does make sense. Yeah, it's finding a new way to put a spin on
Right.
an old phrase.
And then to make it rhyme with the next phrase, I love it.
So were you just doing the writing of the lyrics, or were you also working on the production end of things as well?
I dabbled in production.
Okay.
But I wouldn't call myself a producer.
Okay, so you were just mainly
I could record
focusing.
myself over top of instrumentals and make
Sure.
it sound decent.
Okay.
But I wouldn't consider myself a producer.
Okay, so you shared that you got to open up for some national acts.
Yeah.
How did that come to be, and can you share who some of them were?
Just knowing the right people
Sure.
and getting on the right bill.
Okay.
A couple buddies of mine, his name was Papa Goose and Chaotic.
Okay.
We were kind of in this little group called Messiah Music, and we opened up for Paul Wall and Afro
Nice.
Man in Cleveland.
Okay.
And then I was on the Miller Lite Festival here in Perrysburg, where we opened up for Young MC, Tone Low, Kanati by Nature.
Very cool.
I forget who else was on that bill. At least those three.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, from what you told me in your story, that your time as a rapper kind of served as a catalyst for opening doors in a variety of avenues.
Mm-hmm.
So can you elaborate about some of the opportunities that were presented to you as a result? Because I know you talked about that ended up opening doors for you to do some work with 92.5 and then also kickstarted the DJing. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on how your rapping helped to get your foot in the door with some other things?
Yeah, so the pizzeria I was at was also associated with the radio station.
Okay, yeah.
And people I knew were on there, and they were like, hey, you want to come in and write some bits? So I would do this bit called Celebrity Rap Battles.
Yes, I remember these.
Did you really?
Yes,
did you,
I do.
Did you listen to them?
I did.
Oh, they
I
were
did.
dope. That was dope and great at the same time. They were dope.
I love it. I love it when
You
we
gonna make a note?
accidentally combine. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh, great.
It's a new word. It's good.
Rope. No, we will not use that word.
It's not a great combination.
No, that's not a great combination. No, it was awesome. I'm glad you listened to those. My
Yes.
favorite one was like the Easter Bunny versus the St. Patrick's Day leprechaun.
That was a very great era, because I remember that's also when Hurricane Katrina was doing stuff and
Yeah.
Donnie P and everything. So
Yeah,
yes.
we did the local comedy show tour.
I love
and-
it.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
it was a lot of fun. So doing that, and while I was working in the kitchen, so that was fun. I made some of the best relationships there with doing all that stuff for 92.5.
That's actually the very first time I ever heard your name was you doing that. So I've had name recognition for you since then.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see where you are now with you doing that back then. And
Yeah, and I had DJ'd a little bit here
Yeah.
and there, playing with turntables and stuff, but nothing too serious. And at the pizzeria, there was also a DJ.
Okay.
And one day the DJ didn't show up. And so they knew that I had some experience with music and electronics and DJ systems and music knowledge. And so they asked if I wanted to DJ, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? So then I just became the in-house DJ from Wednesday to Saturday, and that was what I did for a job.
I feel like your situation is a really good example. It's actually making me reflect on our last interview with Abby Sarabia. She talked a lot about networking and building relationships. I feel like your story is a very good example of that, because you were able to take advantage of these opportunities that were presented to you because you were building these relationships naturally with these people.
Yeah, organic, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Organic relationship building is
So
the best
that-
thing ever when it's not forced.
Because because there's no agenda.
Yeah.
It's just
Exactly.
talking and hanging out, and you know my attributes, I know your attributes. If I can use you for something, yay. If you can use me for something, cool. And if not, it doesn't matter.
No big deal, because you still get to know somebody. So
Exactly,
that's a great
and that's
thing.
the ultimate goal.
So still thinking about the pizzeria, let's talk about a topic that I know you're very passionate about, your wife.
Yes.
So yes, see, look at your face. I love that so much. So
Thank
you
you.
met your wife, Laura, in the pizzeria.
You can say life.
Yeah, life and wife, right?
Yeah.
And then you subsequently ended up starting to event plan with her and DJing full time. What led to the two of you teaming up together as business partners outside of your relationship?
Well, I was the DJ, she was the server.
Okay.
And then the doors shut down, the pizzeria shut down.
Yeah.
Well, no, let me back up a second. So during that time frame, I had a little bit of pull and was like, hey, why don't you bring her on with me and we'll oversee entertainment and different things.
Was that strategic?
Always is. Yeah, of course. I'm not afraid to admit it. If I see an opportunity, I will
Absolutely.
say, hey, I'll present it. And I have silver tongue sometimes, and it helps.
100%.
100%.
100%.
And so then she stopped serving and then started collecting a salary. And
That's awesome.
and then the door shut.
Okay.
And subsequently in that time frame, we also moved in together. And so we
Okay.
were living under one roof, and our income was from the same place, and then no more. And so that's when we decided. She started taking temp jobs, but I was like, nah, I can't go back. I've already seen what it's like over here in the land of the living. I don't want to go back.
So you were that committed that you knew.
I knew. And I had some friends that could get me connections here and there with DJ gigs and stuff like that. And I also started, there's a guy locally, DJ Hobby. A lot of people know who he is. I worked for him essentially for a little while. He put me into different places and helped me in my time of need. And I've paid homage to that dude for many years because when I was in that moment, he looked out for me. And so I just kept rolling with it and doing. And then finally I was like, you know what? We can just do this stuff ourselves. We can start a company and we can start event planning because she has a degree from Michigan State in PR and hospitality.
Oh, okay. So that obviously lends well to event planning.
That's also why I was able to say, hey, pull her into this position, not just be like, yo, give my wife a job.
Right.
You're
right.
There was some credibility behind it.
Sure.
But yeah, so she was like, yeah, sure, okay. And then I just started creating this business, and she started coming along. And we started event planning.
That's awesome.
We planned like open mic nights. We planned some art shows. A lot of different things. My favorite gig we ever did was called Stand Up Toledo.
Okay.
And it was at the Maumee Indoor Theater. Well, let me preface it first. So we went to see Daniel Tosh in Detroit.
Oh, okay.
And we're sitting there in the theater, and his opening act came on, and we're watching, and it's okay. And I looked over, and I had known a lot of comedians from working on the radio.
Yeah.
And I looked over at my wife, and I said, there's people we know that are way better than this. And so that spiraled into, let me come up with an idea that's cool. And so our objective was to put the local guys that we know that are hilarious on a stage in a theater, just like these touring acts, but do it locally. And so we called it Stand Up Toledo, and we did that for about 4 or 5 years, and that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So outside of the professional realm with your wife, I love how your face lit up as soon as I mentioned her.
Yeah.
So thinking about your wife, Laura, what is it that you love about her that initially drew you to her, and that you currently, when you think about her, what is it that you love and appreciate about her?
She gets me, mostly. And she's the yin to my yang also. She's the focused one, and I'm the dreamer, and so we balance out very well. But yeah, she's awesome, man.
That's awesome.
And she keeps me focused, because I've got a lot of ideas. My cranks are always turning, and so I like to run things by her, and she'll be the one to say,
It sounds like you guys work very well together, not just with your businesses, but that sounds like a really good balance and a really good dynamic for a good, healthy, long-lasting relationship.
Yeah, and people that knew us didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Because we were together, worked together. From the time we went on our first date, we spent one night apart up until for like 4 or 5 years. And we spent every night together since our first date.
You know what my personal opinion is on why some people can't understand that? There are a lot of people in relationships who don't even like the person that they're with. And so to think about spending all that time with that person, in my personal opinion, I think it's a really hard concept for people to grasp, because I think the focus of just a lot of people unfortunately can't look at their spouse or their significant other and think, man, I really like this person and want to spend time with them.
Even when I don't.
Right, exactly. And so unfortunately, I think that's a foreign concept. And so I think for people like you, people like me who have found that person that you don't just want to be married to them, but you actually want to hang out with them. I just said to my fiance yesterday that I love that even if we would have never met and gotten together the way that we did, I think she's unbelievably cool and want to hang out with her. And not everybody can say that. So I'm sure that that's a lot of what that is they're looking at something that does not compute, because for a lot of people, they don't have that. Yeah,
she's just, since we met, has just always been ride or die for me.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of what I needed.
That's awesome.
Because without that, I'm a loose cannon.
I'm so glad that you found that. It's good when you can find somebody who can take all of those big ideas and all of your ideas that are just kind of ping-ponging around in your brain and help you be able to kind of bring it all down and organize it.
I'll give you a complete example of how much I knew that she meant to me. It's kind of a cheesy example, but I smoked cigarettes heavily for like 15 years.
Okay.
When I met her, I took breaks. Like when I was in the Marines, I didn't smoke as much. And then, but Newports were my go-to. So I smoked a lot. When I met her and we started dating, she said that she would never marry a smoker.
Oh, okay.
And within weeks, I was...
That was enough of a motivator for you?
Yeah, that was and I don't smoke.
Well, I think that speaks a lot to how much you wanted her to stay in your life.
Like, she's a keeper.
That's amazing. So in 2011, with the help of Laura, your wife, you launched Book That DJ. We're at the headquarters right now, and so clearly things are have gone in a good direction.
Yeah.
It sounds like, though, from what you described, the first few years were a very hard-fought journey with lots of struggles, lots of hurdles. So can you elaborate on the struggles that you went through, that you experienced in the first few years when you were getting things up and going?
Yeah, starting a business isn't easy. Some people think, if you start it, it will come, it'll be successful. I'm going to start a business and be successful. No, it's not. It's a lot of just really putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, taking risks, and just trying and going day to day with knowing that you have ultimate goals in mind. And to reach those goals is a lot of work and a lot of struggle. There was times where, we were struggling to keep the water on. We were struggling to get diapers for Micaiah. It was very rough. And she, I love her, but she kept saying, maybe you should just get a job. And I can't. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. And, slowly and surely she started seeing that and understanding it. And then we started growing more and more through our opportunities. But it was just tough, man. It's not easy. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go into business and print up some business cards and people know me on Facebook and I've got friends, and it's not it at all. You really got to get out there.
What do you think if you were sitting across from someone else who has an idea, wants to start a small business, what would be one piece of advice or two major pieces of advice that you would give to them that you maybe didn't really think of or didn't know going into this, that you feel like would have been, not necessarily would have been the thing that would have changed everything and as far as not struggling as much, but would have been very helpful, would have been a helpful thing to know going into it?
It's all based on the individual and the idea. Because I sit down with people all the time. People come to me often and come and sit down with me and ask me for advice because they have an idea or they want to go into business, but don't know where to begin or what to do. And so there's a lot of things you have to do to actually be in business. You can't just say, I have this idea and print up business cards, make a website,
Sure.
make a Facebook page, maybe file with the state that it's a business. That's still not a business. There's a lot that goes into it. And so it all depends on the individual. And that little bit right there, if you're not even doing that, you're not in business. I mean, then there's so much more that goes into it. You've got to network. You've got to be personable. You've got to be understanding. You have to know customer service. You have to be on time, on point. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. Like, there's a lot. And it's a constant thing. It is a constant thing.
See,
they have to be ready for that.
I think even you just sharing those things is valuable from the standpoint that I could see sitting across from someone who's very excited about starting up a new venture, being able to say, that's incredible that you have this idea. Have you thought about these things? Because it's not going to be as simple as, hey, lots of people like me. Here's this idea. I'm going to make a t-shirt and that's going to be it. I feel like the advice that you're giving is very valuable because it helps to demystify some of that misconception that, hey, I have this idea and it's that good that purely by it existing, it may be, having some friends that are supportive, that is the thing that's going to make it be successful long term.
Well, I've seen it, being in the wedding industry, I've seen it often because, and a lot of wedding professionals can attest to this. There's a new crop every year. People that buy a camera and now they're a photographer. People that buy a computer and a controller or some turntable, now they're a DJ, now they're a wedding DJ. But there's a lot of elements to be successful in business that most people don't know. And that's why I say it's based on the individual and the idea.
Sure.
And when people do come and sit down with me and talk to me, it's not necessarily about, let me tell you everything you need to know. It's what have you done so far? How can I get you to the next step on some bullet points that you should focus on?
Sure.
Because I can't give you all of it.
Right.
Because we'll be here for days. And honestly, it's hard to think of all of it at once.
Absolutely.
And so I've got to, know where you're at and help you get to the next point.
Well, like you said, it varies depending on what the specific venture is, the specific project, the realm in which they're.
And don't get me wrong, like there's a lot that I don't know. I don't claim to be like this business genius or whiz, but I've been in business 12 years. I've learned a lot.
Right.
I've experienced a lot that I didn't know then, and I don't know what to say to myself back then other than it's gonna be a journey, bro.
Right. Absolutely. That's so true. So it sounds like 2015 is when things really started to take off and really gain some traction.
Yeah.
And you've clearly experienced a lot of success since then. So what has it been like to see Book That DJ grow to the point that it is now? And did you have kind of an idea in your head of where it is currently? Is this the trajectory you thought it was going to be on?
Yeah.
That's great.
I still have a bigger vision yet, but this was kind of the vision that I had for it.
Okay.
Of creating a team of DJs that come together, work together for a common goal of working, of being able to DJ consistently. I've to the point now where I have an operations manager. We have 10 guys on crew and girls of all different walks of life, and I tried my best to keep them as busy as I can. But my goal was to bring everybody and be it more of a collaborative effort.
Nice.
In kind of the idea that some people have is that I have DJs that work for me and then I take money from them and put it in my pocket. That is a myth. what it is there's people here that work together. I help with the booking because I have a lot of contacts and
it's very
wherewithal
valuable
and
resource.
knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all bring in bookings together and share them. If you're part of the team and somebody asks you to go DJ, but you can't that day, somebody else on the team can, and we still give them the level of service that they deserve.
Sure.
And those referrals come back in for anybody else.
I would imagine another thing that would make Book That DJ attractive is the fact that, like you said, you have 10 DJs from varying backgrounds, which means that, I would assume, I'm not in the DJ realm, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that DJs are not one size fits all the time.
It's not at all.
Okay, so that to me would make Book That DJ attractive because you have 10 DJs from all different backgrounds, which means you have 10 different interest levels and certain areas that they want to focus on, which means even if one of your DJs isn't necessarily a good fit for a specific event, you have 9 others that you can pull from. That's a pretty incredible thing.
And don't get me wrong, they can all do the job, but the connection and there's other elements that we like to cater to.
Absolutely.
So it's this is kind of what I envision. So that portion that comes back goes to all of this.
Yeah.
And then some, like subscriptions and licensing. There's a lot there's a lot of overhead that goes into an operation.
I would imagine.
I take a very small piece. I take some. I have to.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me.
I'm the owner, but I have other sources of income.
Sure.
This is more of a baby of mine, a brainchild, and I love it.
That doesn't surprise me that this wouldn't be your be-all and end-all purely from the standpoint that you were talking about having lots of different interests. So I would actually be very surprised, even though this is obviously a very big undertaking, if this was your sole focus. You know what I mean?
I've got to keep moving.
So one of the things that you said earlier, and I've had in my mind since then, is thinking about something that very much speaks to your drive is when we first brought up Book That DJ, you expressed gratitude toward what you have now, but you also made the comment that it's not ultimately where you want it to be.
Yeah.
I think that when I hear somebody say that very much speaks to their drive and in a very healthy way, because you have gratitude for what you have perspective and gratitude for the journey that you've been on, but you know that there's a new place to go from here, and you're working for it and you're goal oriented.
Yeah. There's a lot that we're putting into place even just for next year under this roof. So
that's awesome.
It's gonna be really cool.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that you have experienced the success that you've experienced.
Thanks.
And that it keeps growing because you're a good guy, and I love to see people who are good people really succeed in their endeavors, especially when it's in the creativity realm.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome. So it sounds like from what you described, you have a really excellent family life, and family is incredibly important to you. You shared that Laura left the entertainment field and is killing it in the health insurance field. And that your daughter she was 12 when you initially wrote this, but she's 13 now. And in your words, is extremely awesome.
Oh man, she's a lot like me.
That's awesome.
100%.
100%.
I swear to you. I almost thought of bringing her, but then she's also a teenager, so she'll be 2 coming in and being extra. But she's awesome.
That's awesome.
She jokes with. Oh man, I can't even describe it. It's insane. If you meet her, you'll see it. Everybody that meets her knows that's my child.
I love it. You clearly love being a dad too.
Oh, I'm a good dad.
Which is amazing.
I love being a dad.
I believe it. Even thinking about her being a major motivating factor for getting you out of the corporate world. Clearly, family and your daughter are very, very important to you.
Yes.
How does it feel for you to knowing all the struggles that you've been through with getting your business off the ground and running, knowing how important your family is to you? What is it like for you? How does it feel to see your wife and your daughter happy and thriving?
It's peaceful.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
It because when I hate the cliche happy wife, happy life, but it's really like when your family's happy, it makes me it should make you happy, and seeing them happy lets me be able to be me more, because I'm a handful. I'm not easy to deal with. I am a nutcase up here at times, and she puts up with it, and that's why I love her so much, because I can be not maniacal. What's the word I'm looking for? I can be neurotic. That's the word I want to say. I can be very neurotic.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
You know, I have high anxiety levels that I deal with often.
Okay.
To the point where I was medicated this year for a while.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
that your first time ever being medicated for it?
Yes.
How you said for a while, so did you decide it wasn't for you?
Yes.
Okay. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand.
I have a very hyperactive brain, being creative as I am. I'm constantly thinking about things, and you know, putting myself out there and being vulnerable and dealing with business and stress. I get anxiety, and I have social anxiety also. So just like sitting down here with you and feeling comfortable chatting with you, and you know, people that I know, I feel very comfortable around. And there are a lot of times when I can go out and say and be, but there's also a lot of times where like I can't talk to people. I just can't. Or like, you know, a lot of people, I don't like being in big crowds. I can't be in big crowds because my anxiety levels go up, and I have to go somewhere. I have to be out of there.
I
A lot of people don't know that
that
about me, and when I tell them that, they're like, "But you're a DJ." But I'm like, it doesn't. That's different.
Such a common. Okay, so this is a really big common misconception that creatives and specifically performers are extroverts and they love crowds and they love huge groups of people. But honestly, most of the creatives, not all of them, but a large majority of the creatives in my life, including myself, we don't like big crowds, and we love people, but people also drain us. So, you know, and you know, when you're even sitting here with you, I'm an overthinker. It sounds like overthinkers unite.
Overthinker.
Okay, all right.
Oh yeah.
You know, I will probably
And a dweller.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will probably I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago I accidentally texted my boss back, and I said, you know, autocorrect. I said, "You're welcome." And then my finger hit my autocomplete suggestion, and I said, "You're welcome, babe." And so now that was like 3 weeks ago, and I'm
you're
still like,
oh
yeah,
man,
definitely,
shit.
yes.
How's that gonna come off?
So I get that when you're running high anxiety all the time. I get that that's tough, and there is that misconception that creatives are not that way. So.
No, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I'll go. You know, there's things I keep to myself because that's just who I am, but I don't mind sharing a little bit. Like, you know, there'd be times I'm at a gig, killing it on a Saturday night, just being me and outgoing, da-da-da-da-da. And then Sunday, I just got to lay in bed in the dark, watch TV, because I have to regenerate. Because I feel like I've given so much of myself that I need to be alone.
You feel drained?
Yeah.
So besides knowing that about yourself, that when you do get overwhelmed and if you've been at an event, it's been very busy, you know that the next day you do need to spend that time. Are there other ways that you've learned to cope and help deal with the anxiety on a daily basis that you found are helpful to you?
Meditation.
Okay.
Yes, meditation helps a lot. Guided meditation. I have I put on earbuds. And then I also have like my my shooting headphones that I put on. That's because they cancel out all noise.
Yeah.
So I put those on. I put on an eye mask, and I just lay there, and I just listen to the soothing sounds.
Does that help your
of Jason
brain
Stevenson.
feel like it's calming down?
It does.
It's a welcome relief. Yeah.
It does. And then when I'm done, I just feel. But that's only as of recently. That's been maybe a year. I don't know if you know Bill from the Blarney. Shout out to Bill.
Yep.
I consider him a mentor to me. I talk to him about everything and anything, and he gives me advice.
That's awesome.
And that was a piece of advice that he shared with me. Because I go through a lot. I mean, I've gone through a lot of people bad-mouthing and being ridiculous towards me. And it takes its toll on you mentally. And so I deal with as much as I can, and then I talk to my influencers, I say, my mentors, and they give me more advice. And that was a piece of advice that Bill gave me. Start meditating. And it has been 100% helpful.
I'm so glad that you found that. That I don't meditate regularly. it's a practice I would love to make a more regular thing in my life, because it actually surprised me the first time I tried it, because my brain moves very fast, like yours does. And I was very skeptical and thought there's no way that I'm gonna be able to sit here and do this.
But you're wrong.
I was so shocked.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad that you found that and have found that to be a very calming and centering thing for you.
Another thing I do is, everybody, not everybody, most people, they reach for their phone as soon as they get up, right?
Yeah.
Reach for your phone. A lot of people, they'll start scrolling and see what's checking your stuff. I make it a point mentally that I know that I do that, and I've done this for years, and it helps. I know that I do that, so when I grab my phone, I go to Google first, and I type in whatever day it is, plus positivity. And then I go to Google Images, and I just read all the cliche quotes and all the positive, reassuring sentiment, sentences that are in these little captions and stuff, and it helps. It's like, you can do it today. You're awesome. Those affirmations.
I could see that being helpful, because I know that smartphones only make anxiety worse, because it's like you wake up and then as soon as you grab your
That's
phone,
what you do.
It's like the onslaught of everything. So that's actually a really
It
great
really
idea.
Helps. It does. And a lot of them are cliches, happy Thursday or whatever.
Sure.
But you'll find one. And I always find one.
That's great.
I find one that's like, all right, that's my motivator
That's
today. Let's
great.
go. And then I get up out of bed.
So Jason, talking once again about being put in a box, and you referenced, there have been times where that people have had a certain view of you. What is a common misconception about you that you would like to bust, that you feel like people get wrong about you?
That I am, how do I put this? That I am always, that I take advantage of people. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
Is that going back into the salesman kind of thing that we were talking about?
Yeah, or like that I'm, I don't know how to put this. Like I told you before we started rolling, that I've heard people say that I'm like a car salesman.
Yeah.
That's not me at all. But it's because they've only seen me in little spurts.
Right.
And little pieces.
Sure.
And I do have quite a overwhelming personality sometimes. But that's when I'm at peak, like,
sure,
let's go. Or I've had 4 Red Bulls, like today.
That'll definitely do that.
It.
Well, I just so you know, I'm not finding you overwhelming at all.
Oh, good. Because I feel like I'm up there now.
No.
Like I've been ramping up this whole time, and I feel like I'm getting to the holy cow, my brain is really active right now.
It's okay. So for me, especially in this situation, I think that's a really big positive, and I'm sorry for times in your life that's been framed as not being a positive thing, because what I see of you is a very authentic human being.
Well, thank you.
Who is incredibly hardworking, incredibly driven. You are not trying to pretend to be something that you're not.
Thank you.
And you're very, very aware of what you've had to go through to get to where you are today. And so there's a lack of a sense of entitlement that is very refreshing. And I just all around think you're a really good guy. So
Thank you.
I'm sorry that you've been put into a box like that. I understand how that happens. Like we were talking about before we got rolling, people see you in one avenue, and people will make, we all do it. We make snap judgments about people based on a couple minutes of observing them.
Yeah, I saw something posted on social media a few months ago, and it's kind of stuck with me, that it's like there are millions of versions of you in the people that you pass on the street that you simply make eye contact with, and the people that see one thing that you've posted, and somebody that sees you interacting with somebody else. Like, there are millions of versions of you that live inside of other people's minds.
That's true.
But the only version of you that matters is the one that's inside of your head.
That is
Isn't that
so
good?
true. That's another great soundbite.
Well, I didn't come up with it.
I know, it's
I'm
good.
Just
It's good
sharing because it helps.
Right? How
helps
hard
knowing
is
that.
it though? That's a very easy to wrap your brain around thing logically. It's a whole other thing to actually be able to fully take that on and not let outside voices influence how you see yourself in regard to that.
Well, like I said, I know that I'm very hyperactive thinking, and I have anxiety and I have stress, and I'm freshly, as of a few months, off medication. I didn't last very long, and it's because I just fell flat, and I knew that was not me. Anybody that has taken medication kind of can probably understand that word flat, but since then I knew that I needed to get off of it because it wasn't me. And so since then I knew that if I was going to take this journey and not be on it, and knowing that that's not the answer for me, is that I need to really figure myself out. And not that I don't know who I am, but you know what I mean. I need to do extra work.
You're taking responsibility. You're not making,
I need to be more self-aware.
Exactly.
And I need to take that extra work and balance myself out myself.
That makes a lot of sense. That is a perfect spot for us to wrap this up. Jason,
already?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
That time flies.
That's crazy.
You are an awesome guy. I'm so glad that we are finally sitting down and talking. I'm so happy to see the success that you're experiencing, the trajectory that you're on. And seriously, once again, thank you for basically opening up your home to us. And I'm very excited to continue to hang with you and get to know you better.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. If you would, please look right at this camera and tell our awesome listeners and viewers where they can find you on social media. And then also, if there's anything specific you would like to promote, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you see me promote things all the time, so I'll be very brief with that. It's bookthatdj.com. If you need a DJ, book that DJ. It's that simple. I know it's cheesy, but it's easy cheesy, and I like it. I'm supposed to do it. Most of you probably already know where I'm at on social media. It's Jason J. Kelley. Or, just Google search me or YouTube me. You can find some rap videos. They're fun. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope that you've gotten to know me more as a person and not just a person on the internet, I guess.
I love it.
Thanks.
I love it. Well, to all of you who have tuned in today to watch or to listen to episode 16 of our first season with our good friend Jason Kelley here, thank you so much. It's kind of crazy for us to think about that we're winding down our very first season, and we just want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for believing in us, for wanting to invest in us, and for being committed to getting to know our awesome community better. After this week, we're going to be making some announcements about the end of the season, so please stay tuned to that. If you're not already following us on social media, you can find us on both Facebook and Instagram at Heart of Glass the Pod. You can also watch our episodes on YouTube, and if you aren't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have a link tree where you can find pretty much any information you would ever want to know about the podcast. And we also have a link to our podcast application and are always accepting new applications for guests. Once again, thank you so much for taking time to tune in to learn a little bit more about another awesome human who makes up the heartbeat of the Glass City. Thanks, and we'll see you again next time.